When Eric Sutton, my charming CEO husband, found out I handed a $1 million project to his assistant Vivien Cheney, he figured his 3 months of radio silence had finally broken me. Suddenly he's all, "Let's go to Iceland for our honeymoon." Vivien heard and threw a fit. Threatened to quit. Classic. Eric, who treated her like royalty, freaked out. After 3 days of begging, he bailed on the trip, said it was for work, then handed her my ticket. Later he shrugged it off. Romance is petty. Work comes first. You're my wife. You get it, right? Right. I just stared at Vivien's new post. A couple selfie, cheek to cheek, hands shaped like a heart. I didn't say a word. Just nodded. Eric thought I was finally playing the role. Calm, supportive, mature. Promised an even better honeymoon when he got back. Too bad I'd already quit. Too bad he'd already signed the divorce papers. We were done. On day 2 of Eric and Vivien's little honeymoon, I wrapped up my handovers and hit HR to make my resignation official. Not even 10 minutes later, ding. Approved. By Eric, of course. Guess Mr. Sutton couldn't wait to drop her. At least she knew when to back off. Yeah, sticking around would have just made it messy. Wonder what she's gonna do now. Why do we care? We're out here scraping by on scraps. She's his wife. She could quit and nap for a year, still be loaded. As I packed my stuff, they stared, barely hiding the smug looks. Nothing new. Everyone knew Vivien and I weren't exactly besties. And Eric, my loving husband, always took her side, sometimes straight up embarrassed me in front of everyone just to keep her happy. So yeah, the office turned on me fast, all desperate to suck up to her. I let out a dry laugh. Sorry to disappoint. I'm not quitting out of heartbreak. I'm leveling up. Just got hired at double the pay, killer benefits. Didn't even glance at their bitter faces. Grabbed my stuff and walked out. Then, of course, Eric called the second I hit the sidewalk. I'd been rehearsing how to break the news, but the second I picked up, he goes, "I sent you a file. Finish it and send it back within an hour." So yeah, he still had no clue I'd quit. I almost laughed. Opened the file. It was that same project I'd handed over to Vivien. Classic. She got the credit. I did the work. And when it crashed and burned, I took the hit. At first I said no, but Eric kept pushing. When I didn't cave, he hit me with his favorite move, silence. Days of it. Even before we got married, my parents drilled it in. Relationships need compromise. I didn't want us to fall apart, so I gave in. Over and over. Thought maybe someday he'd get it, see everything I'd done for him. But this time, just to boost Vivien, he picked a fight and iced me out for 3 whole months. Even when I was in the hospital with a 104 fever, he wouldn't glance my way. All he cared about was ripping that $1 million project I spent a month landing right out of my hands. That's when I finally checked out, for real. "I'm not at the office," I said, cool as ever. "Not at the office?" Eric's voice dropped 10 degrees. "It's work hours, Haley Henderson. You do realize leaving your post means losing a full day's pay, right? Company policy." "I know, but I already." I was just about to say I'd resigned when Vivien's voice slid in, all soft and fake sweet. "Eric, if Haley doesn't want to, don't push her. I can handle it." Eric turned syrupy in a blink. A total 180 from how he'd just snapped at me. "No, you were up late last night. You should rest today." Vivien tried to play humble. "I'm not tired." But Eric shut her down. "I'm the boss. If I say rest, you rest. You gonna disobey me now?" Vivien giggled. "I just feel bad for Haley. It's a lot for her." Eric snorted. "You think she works harder than you? You're out there locking down contracts. She's at the office doing nothing. And don't forget, she's my wife. Part owner. It's literally her job to step up." Just like that, everything I'd done wiped away with a shrug. "No anger, no jealousy, no heartbreak. Just numb. I'd been through it too many times." Eric took my silence as a green light, his voice softening. "Haley, you really think I'm just dumping work on you? I'm training you. You're my wife. You should feel more invested in the company. Learn from Vivien. She was up till 4 a.m. last night. I've never seen a girl so driven and talented." Vivien threw in a fake little laugh. "I think Haley's great too." Her words said one thing. Her tone said bless her heart. Eric, oblivious, laughed along. "If she were half as good as you, I'd be over the moon. You've handled every major project this year. Perfectly in sync. Like always." I stayed quiet. Not worth the energy. Every single one of those major projects had been mine until he handed them to Vivien. Eric knew it. Pretended he didn't. 5 years of marriage, and he really thought I'd just swallow it. "Anyway," he said, all casual, "Vivien and I have a dinner event tonight. Finish this and send it over soon." Click. Hung up before I could even breathe. 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Vivien had posted again. Candlelit dinner. Her head tilted all sweet against Eric's shoulder. Right in front of them, a sleek little gift box, perfect ring size. Scrolled down to last night's post, 4 a.m. at a bar. Drinks, laughter, the whole flirty mess. So her hard work. Partying. And that business dinner? A date. I let out a short laugh. Wasn't even mad enough to call him out. What was the point? He always had some excuse locked and loaded. And if I hit him with actual facts, all I'd get was silence. No apology, no guilt. Just that cold freeze he loved to use as punishment. And every single time, I was the one left cleaning up the mess. Looking back, I should have just focused on making bank. Feelings? Whatever. Money doesn't stab you in the back. With that mindset, I walked out of the office, already planning my next move. Then my phone buzzed twice. Eric had just dropped 20 grand on my card. Everyone thought I married Eric for his money. Funny, since he was the one draining me dry, holding all my cards. He always said his cash was tied up in the company. So every bill, every splurge, came out of my paycheck and side hustles. I figured marriage was a team effort, not some scoreboard of who paid what. So I kept quiet. Until the math stopped adding up. I made good money, but my account was always gasping for air. So I checked the statements. And there it was. Eric had been using my card to spoil Vivien. $100 lipsticks. Designer bags over $1,000. On her birthday? He blew tens of thousands renting out a 5-star hotel. Meanwhile, I was still rocking the same outfits from 2 years ago. Anything over $100? Too pricey, he'd say, handing me a card with some bargain bin excuse about saving for our future. When I called him out, he flipped it on me. Accused me of being paranoid. Gave me the cold shoulder like always. Swore he'd never touch my money again. So yeah, thinking about all that, I called him. Had to hit redial like 10 times. Nothing. So I walked straight into the bank and reported the card lost. Not even 60 seconds later, Eric finally called. Sorry, I was busy and didn't see your calls. What's up? Like we were just catching up or something. It's fine now, I said, keeping it cool. Oh, weird. Your card's frozen. I know, I said. I froze it. What did you do that for? He snapped. You bored or something? Take it however you want. But didn't you promise not to touch my card again? Silence. I'd never picked a fight over money before. Back when the company was just starting, I got seriously sick. Surgery ran $10,000, and Eric had already dumped all his money into some flop of a project. He thought I'd lose it. Came to me crying, all apologies. But I just hugged him and said money didn't matter. He could use mine. No questions asked. I thought giving him my heart would bring us closer. Turns out, I was just making it easier for him to take more. Eric went quiet for 2 seconds, then sighed. Still playing the victim. All right, I get it. You're still mad I skipped the honeymoon. This is your way of punishing me, he said. Honestly, Haley, I thought you were more mature. Guess not. Fine. I'll drop everything and take you on that honeymoon. Happy now? I didn't bring my card. Just unlock yours and stop making this harder than it needs to be. Tonight's event matters. I'll give you 10 minutes. If you don't do it, I'm not gonna let this slide. Eric tossed out that little threat right before hanging up, like he was scared I might actually say no. Back then, anytime he said he was mad, I'd cave. Not because I feared his anger. I just didn't want to pile more stress on him. Thought he was drowning in work, thought I was helping. Now I knew better. The chaos? Always his. I was just the one stuck cleaning it up. Why keep doing that? You forgot your card? Ask your secretary. Or Vivien. This trip was for her project anyway. Let her pay for it. I fired off the message, shut my phone down, and headed home to pack. I paid for the house. Every cent. It was his favorite layout, his pick on the flooring. I even planned to put both our names on the deed. But something held me back. In the end, I wrote down only mine. Looking back? Thank God I did. Once everything was packed, I listed the house with a realtor. The next day, I marched into the courthouse and handed over the signed divorce papers. Back when we first signed them, I was still wondering how to break it to Eric. But he was already halfway out the door, dragging his suitcase like we were on a tight schedule. He didn't even glance at the papers. Just flipped to the last page and signed. You should read it, I said, still hanging on to some tiny scrap of hope. No need. You're my wife. Don't I trust you? I smiled, cold and bitter. Funny. He trusted Vivien with everything else. That so-called trust? Just another way to brush me off. Too busy chasing a flight. Too eager to join Vivien on their honeymoon. I handed over the papers. The clerk said I needed proof from him that the relationship was actually over. So I pulled out the receipts. Photos of Eric and Vivien posing like a couple. Even brought the wedding photo he'd smashed for her. Still, the clerk shook her head. He has to say it himself. Seriously? Frustrated, I turned my phone back on. It lit up like a Christmas tree, missed calls, unread messages. All from Eric. Since I hadn't unfrozen the card, he'd cycled through the usual, begging, threatening. The last message? Full on rage. Swearing at me. Saying he wanted a divorce. I showed it to the clerk. She still wasn't budging. So I called him. Took forever for him to answer. Eric, about our relationship. What relationship? You're wasting your breath. If you don't apologize to Vivien, I will divorce you. He cut me off cold, like he thought I was calling to grovel. Then he hung up. That did it. The clerk's face finally softened as she processed the paperwork. It'll be finalized in a month. Eric wasn't serious. He never was. He'd tossed around divorce like a threat for years, whenever he got pissed. And I always folded, always made peace, gave in, held things together. He was convinced I'd never actually leave. To him, divorce wasn't an ending. It was a weapon. Eric really forgot how feelings work, like a savings account. Keep taking without giving, and yeah, it hits zero real fast. I'd listed the house cheap, so it sold in under a week. After signing everything at the realtors and locking in the move-out date, I headed home. As soon as I opened the door, laughter echoed inside. The couple slippers by the door? Gone. Instead, a pair of heels, and Eric's favorite leather shoes. The same ones Vivien gave him for his birthday. That's when it hit me. They were here. Together. Weren't they supposed to be gone for 2 more days? I was still processing when Vivien strolled out like she owned the place. Wearing my slippers. My pajamas. Hair slightly messy, all casual and smug, like she lived there now. Haley, why are you back? Isn't it office hours? She tossed a grape in her mouth and spit the seed into a cup. My cup. Part of the set Eric gave me back, when I actually thought that meant something. Eric walked out from the living room right then. Saw Vivien using my cup and of course, acted like he didn't. When his eyes landed on me, his face twitched, then iced over. Skipping work again? Just 'cause you're my wife doesn't mean you get special treatment. The company's not your personal playground. If you can't follow the rules, how am I supposed to make anyone else? Rules? I almost laughed. If anyone was breaking rules, it was Eric. A year ago, right when the company was finding its footing, he fast-tracked Vivien, 0 experience, straight into management. I had doubts. He swore she had potential. So like an idiot, I trained her. She spent her days napping or doing her makeup. Then she'd hang around after hours, post pics in the group chat like she was burning the midnight oil. I told Eric. He shrugged. Maybe she just needs to unwind. I asked him to keep tabs on her. Too busy. Suggested cameras. Not legal. Then came the botched projects. The money down the drain. Vivien kept playing dress up at the office. When I finally said she had to go, Eric pushed back hard. He even asked, "Are you just jealous she might outshine you?" So yeah, she stayed. Took my clients. Hijacked my projects. And Eric? Watched it all happen, said nothing. Worse, he called her the star employee and made me the villain. Just the jealous, petty wife. I used to feel hurt. Now, I realized, with the patience I wasted here, I could have crushed it anywhere else. Places where I wouldn't be ignored, sidelined, or treated like I didn't matter. I said nothing. Vivien gave Eric this fake sweet back pat. Maybe Haley rushed over 'cause she found out you were back in Bellevaro. Eric ate it up. Smug lit up his face. All right, just don't let it happen again. But hey, how do you even know I was flying back today? Vivien smiled like butter wouldn't melt. Eric, you forgot? HR booked your flight. Someone on the team probably told her. Eric snorted, icy as ever. You never care about work, Haley, but you're all in when it comes to gossip. Don't think freezing my card and humiliating me in front of our partners gets a free pass. Vivien had to scramble around borrowing money to cover it. I'll forgive you, after we properly thank Vivien. Her place is under Reno, so clear out the guest room. She's moving in. I shrugged. Already sold the place. You what? His eyes bugged. Before he could spiral, Vivien jumped in. Haley's probably selling it to buy you a bigger place. She's making it up to you. Eric nodded like it made perfect sense. Yeah, we've outgrown this place anyway. I'll pitch in for the new one. So hold off on the sale. Vivien can crash here for now. Vivien chimed in. I feel bad though. I'll pay rent. Eric scoffed. You're my assistant. I'm not charging you rent. But I insist. Something at least. Fine. A few hundred. They were on the same delusional wavelength, acting like rent was pocket change. This place was dead center in the city. Market rent was pushing $1,000. No wonder he didn't care. It wasn't his to lose. Back when we were dating, he used to split dinner and movie bills down to the freaking penny. The leap from, I love you to your disposable was wild. Eric turned back to me. So, agree to this, and maybe I'll reconsider the divorce. No need. He cut me off. Whoa, not so fast. You think I'm just gonna forgive you? If I let this go, you'll just keep screwing up. He really thought I was the one begging to stay. Vivien giggled. Eric, you've got a point. But for me? Can't you forgive Haley? You've been together forever. Would be such a waste. Eric pretended to think it over. She leaned in, fake pout, tugging on his arm. He chuckled. All right. Then he shot me a smug look. Since Vivien's standing up for you, I'll drop it. You should really thank her. After all that, she's still on your side. So about the divorce. I cut in calm and sharp. You misunderstood. Handed him the papers. We're already divorced. Eric stared at the papers. He didn't read them. He just held them like they were a dirty napkin I'd handed him to throw away. Funny, he said, a tight, ugly smile stretching his face. He tossed the papers onto the coffee table. They slid off the edge and hit the floor. You really went to the trouble of printing up fake legal docs? That's a lot of effort just to get my attention, Haley. Vivien was already unpacking her bag. She pulled out a silk robe, one I knew cost more than my first car, and draped it over the sofa. Eric, she's obviously having a mental break. Just ignore her. She'll calm down once she realizes how embarrassing she's being. I checked my watch. 2:15 p.m. You have 45 minutes, I said, my voice flat. The new owners are doing a final walkthrough at 3 o'clock. If you're still here, it's trespassing. Eric let out a bark of laughter. He walked over to the fridge, opened it, and frowned when he saw it was empty. Enough. You sold the house. Please. It's a marital asset. You can't sell it without my signature. Wrong again, I said, leaning against the doorframe. I bought this place 2 years before we married. Your name isn't on the deed. Your name isn't on the mortgage. And since you signed a prenup to protect your company assets from me, well, what's mine is mine. For the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed his eyes. He looked at the empty fridge, then at the boxes I'd already staged near the door. You're lying, he whispered. Call your lawyer, I suggested. He snatched his phone from his pocket. His fingers fumbled as he dialed. Vivien froze, holding a bottle of perfume she was about to place on the mantel. Mark, Eric barked into the phone. Haley's pulling some stunt. Says she sold the house. Says we're divorced. What? What do you mean you got a notification? The color drained from Eric's face. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash. She can't. But I didn't read it. I thought it was. Mark, fix this. Stop the sale. He listened for another 10 seconds, then lowered the phone slowly. He looked at me, and the smugness was gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated panic. You actually did it, he said, his voice cracking. You sold my home. My home, I corrected. And you have 38 minutes. The scrambling was pathetic. Vivien, realizing she wasn't moving into a luxury penthouse but was instead about to be homeless, turned nasty instantly. I can't believe you, she shrieked, shoving her expensive creams back into her suitcase. Eric, do something. She's kicking us out like dogs. Shut up, Vivien, I'm thinking. Eric yelled, running a hand through his hair. He turned to me. Haley, baby, listen. We can fix this. Cancel the sale. Pay the penalty fee. I'll cover it. We can't leave today. I have the investors meeting tomorrow. I need my suits. I need my office set up. Not my problem. Where am I supposed to go? He shouted, losing the nice guy act. The hotels are booked for the convention. You know that. I hear Vivien's place is under renovation, I said, mimicking his tone from earlier. But maybe her parents have a couch. The doorbell rang. It wasn't the new owners. It was the movers I'd hired for my stuff. Take everything with a green sticker, I told the foreman. Eric watched as they hauled out the Italian leather sofa mine, the 85-inch TV mine, and the dining set mine. The house grew emptier and colder with every passing minute. When the clock hit 2:55, Eric was standing in the middle of the living room holding a garment bag and a box of files, looking like a lost child. Vivien was sitting on her suitcase on the porch, furiously texting. Time's up, I said, tossing my keys on the counter. The realtor has the spares. Don't break anything on your way out. I walked to the door. Eric grabbed my arm. His grip was tight, desperate. You walk out that door, Haley, and you're dead to me. You hear? I made you. I gave you a purpose. Without me, you're just some admin girl with an attitude. I looked down at his hand until he let go. Eric, I said softly. I built that company while you were busy playing golf. I paid for this house while you were buying jewelry for your assistant. I didn't need you to give me a purpose. I stepped onto the porch, past a sulking Vivien. I needed you to get out of my way. I didn't go to a hotel. I went to the penthouse I'd leased 3 weeks ago, overlooking the harbor. The next morning, my phone was blowing up. Not from Eric. He was likely too busy doing damage control, but from the office group chat. I hadn't left it yet. I wanted a front row seat. Manager_Dave. Does anyone have the password for the Henderson account cloud drive? Haley isn't answering. Sarah_Sales. Client just called. They said the proposal Eric sent over is missing the compliance appendix. Who has it? Vivien_C. Everyone calm down. Eric is handling it. Stop asking stupid questions. Manager_Dave. It's not a stupid question, Vivien. The deadline is noon. If we miss it, we breach contract. I sipped my coffee, enjoying the view. The compliance appendix was on my personal laptop, the one sitting on my new quartz countertop. It wasn't company property. It was intellectual property I'd developed on my own time. If they wanted it, they could buy it. At 9:30 a.m., I walked into the glass-walled lobby of Vanguard Global. Vanguard was Eric's biggest competitor. They were bigger, meaner, and had been trying to headhunt me for 2 years. When I reached the reception, the CEO, Julian Thorne, was waiting for me. Julian was everything Eric wasn't. Sharp, disciplined, and terrifyingly competent. "Haley," Julian said, extending a hand. He didn't smile, but his eyes were appreciative. "You're 5 minutes early. Time is money, Julian. We've prepared the office in the East Wing. And regarding the client list you mentioned, I didn't bring a client list," I said smoothly. "That would be unethical." Julian raised an eyebrow. "However," I continued, "I did bring myself. And once those clients realize I'm no longer at Sutton Enterprises, well, they tend to follow quality." Julian smirked. "Welcome aboard, Vice President." It took exactly 3 days for Eric's company to start bleeding. The $1 million project that Vivien had won? It turned out to be a poison chalice. The contract had a strict penalty clause for delayed implementation, something I would have flagged instantly. Vivien, who was too busy taking selfies at the signing dinner, hadn't read the fine print. I was in a strategy meeting at Vanguard when my personal phone rang. It was an unknown number, but I knew who it was. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. "Everything all right?" Julian asked, pausing his presentation. "Just a spam caller," I said, silencing the phone. "Please continue about the merger." When I got out, I checked the voicemail. "Haley, pick up the damn phone. The system is locked. The bank accounts for the payroll need dual authorization, and your token isn't working. People are threatening to walk out. I know you're doing this. Fix it." I typed a quick text back. I resigned. My authorization tokens were revoked by HR upon approval. "You approved it, remember? Contact the bank. You're the CEO." I hit send and blocked the number. That afternoon, I met with the representatives from the Takahashi Group, Eric's oldest and most loyal client. Mr. Takahashi looked tired. "Mrs. Sutt, excuse me, Miss Henderson," he said, bowing slightly. "It is good to see you. And you, Kenta. How is the expansion in Tokyo?" "Stalled," he admitted. "Since you left, communication has been difficult. Mr. Sutton sent Miss Cheney to handle the logistics. She asked if Tokyo was in China." I choked back a laugh. "I see. We cannot work with amateurs, Haley," Kenta said, sliding a folder across the table. "We heard you are with Vanguard now. We would like to transfer our portfolio to you. Exclusively." "I'd be honored," I said, opening the folder. It was a contract worth $5 million a year. 2 weeks later, I ran into them. It was unavoidable. The annual tech gala. Eric had to be there to save face. I was there to be crowned the new queen of the industry. I wore a dress I'd bought with my signing bonus, emerald green, sharp cuts, backless. I looked like money. I looked like power. When I walked in with Julian, heads turned. The whispers started immediately. "Isn't that Haley Henderson? She looks incredible. I heard she took the Takahashi account. I heard Sutton Enterprises is missing payroll." I grabbed a champagne flute and circulated. I felt a hand on my elbow. A grip I knew too well. "You think this is funny?" Eric hissed in my ear. I turned. He looked terrible. His suit was wrinkled. He'd probably had to iron it himself. There were dark circles under his eyes. Vivien was clinging to his arm, but she looked less like a trophy and more like a frightened animal. Her dress was flashy but ill-fitting, and she was glaring at everyone who looked at her. "Hello, Eric." "Vivien," I said, cool as ice. "Enjoying the open bar? It's free, so I assume you are." "You stole Takahashi," Eric spat. "That's corporate espionage." "Client choice isn't theft, Eric. They left because you're incompetent. They came to me because I'm not." "I'll sue you," he threatened, but his voice shook. "I'll take you for everything." "With what money?" I asked, tilting my head. "I heard your credit line was frozen yesterday. Something about a defaulted loan on a renovation?" Vivien flinched. "You knew?" Eric looked at Vivien, then back at me. "What renovation?" "Oh, you didn't know?" I smiled at Vivien. Vivien took a company loan to renovate her condo. The one she said she'd pay rent for? I saw the paperwork before I left. "You signed it, Eric. Or, your rubber stamp did." Eric turned on Vivien. "You told me you paid for that yourself." I was going to pay it back." Vivien stammered. "Eric, don't listen to her." "Excuse me," I said, stepping back. "I have to accept an award. Try the crab cakes. They're excellent." I walked away as they started arguing in the middle of the ballroom. The divorce settlement was brutal for him. Since I had proof of his infidelity, thanks Vivien's Instagram, and proof of financial mismanagement of marital funds, the gifts, the judge wasn't sympathetic. I didn't want alimony. I wanted my initial investment in the company back. with interest. To pay me, Eric had to liquidate assets. He had to sell off the company cars. He had to downsize the office. And the best part? He had to fire Vivien. I heard about it from my old HR friend, Sarah, who had jumped ship to Vanguard a week after I did. It was screaming match of the century, Sarah told me over lunch. He told her she was a leech. She told him he was a loser who couldn't even keep a wife. She threw a stapler at him. Did he fire her? He tried. She said she'd sue for wrongful termination and sexual harassment. She's demanding a payout to leave quietly. Does he have the money? Nope, Sarah grinned, biting into her salad. He's selling his watch collection on eBay. 3 months post-divorce. I was sitting in my office at Vanguard, reviewing the quarterly projections. My team had crushed it. We were up 40%. My assistant buzzed in. Ms. Henderson, there's a Mr. Sutton here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment. I paused. I could have sent him away. I could have had security drag him out. Send him in, I said. Eric walked in. He looked older. He'd lost weight. He wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing a button-down and slacks that looked a size too big. He stopped in the middle of the room, looking around at the sleek art, the view of the city, the sheer quiet power of the space. Nice office, he said, his voice hoarse. What do you want, Eric? He slumped into the chair opposite my desk. I lost the company, Haley. I didn't blink. I know. I saw the filing this morning. Bankruptcy. Vanguard is buying the assets, he said. That's you, isn't it? It's a strategic acquisition. We want the IP. We're scrapping the brand. He put his head in his hands. I built that from nothing. We built it, I corrected. And you destroyed it. He looked up, tears in his eyes. I made a mistake. Okay. I admitted it. Vivien, she was nothing. A fantasy. She drained me, Haley. She took the severance and moved to Dubai with some oil guy. She didn't care about me. And that surprises you? I miss you, he said. The words hung in the air, heavy and pathetic. Not the work. Not the money. You. I miss coming home to you. I miss a, can't we try again? I've changed. I've learned my lesson. I looked at him. Really looked at him. I remembered the hospital bed, me burning with fever, waiting for him to visit while he was out drinking with Vivien. I remembered the cold silence. I remembered the way he looked at me when he told me I was nothing without him. I felt nothing. No anger. No love. Just a dull pity, like you feel for a bird that flew into a window. Eric, I said, standing up. You didn't learn a lesson. You just lost your safety net. I walked over to the door and opened it. You don't miss me. You miss the person who fixed everything for you. You miss the person who made you feel like a king when you were acting like a jester. Haley, please. Goodbye, Eric. Don't come here again. Security won't be as polite next time. He stood there for a moment, waiting for me to crack. Waiting for the old Haley, the one who compromised, the one who forgave, to surface. She didn't. She was gone. He walked out, shoulders slumped, defeated. I bought the house back. It came on the market 6 months later. The couple I'd sold it to got transferred to London. I bought it under an LLC cash. I didn't move back in. I rented it out to a nice family. But I kept the garden. One Saturday, I was there checking on the roses, pruning the bushes. A car slowed down on the street. An old sedan. I saw Eric in the driver's seat. He was watching me. He looked rough, unshaven, tired. He watched me for a long minute, just staring at the life he used to have, the wife he used to have, the home he used to have. I didn't wave. I didn't glare. I just snipped a dead rose, tossed it in the bin, and turned my back to water the fresh blooms. When I looked back, the car was gone. My phone buzzed. A text from Julian. Dinner tonight? I found a place that serves that wine you like. Also, the board wants to discuss your promotion to partner. I smiled, feeling the sun on my face. The air tasted cleaner. The world felt bigger. I typed back, perfect. See you at 8. I put the phone in my pocket and walked away from the past, stepping into a future that was entirely, beautifully mine.